Hi, I'm Jeff Palmer, Director of Operations for CE Floyd, and welcome to another episode of Industry Tidbits. We've talked a lot about inflation, material procurement struggles, and the rising cost of labor lately. Today, we'll be discussing best practices from an owner's perspective on how to mitigate those new challenging risks.
Welcome to Industry Tidbits, your go-to resource for today, tomorrow, and the future.
Joining us today to discuss how owners can mitigate risk in a volatile market is Ron Ciotti. Ron is a partner at Hinckley Allen. Hinckley Allen is a multi-service law firm specializing in, amongst other things, senior living, healthcare, education, and of course, construction. Ron is also a nationally recognized speaker and author and has presented on a multitude of topics on behalf of over 50 construction-related organizations. Ron, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jeff, and honored to be here. And I want to thank CE Floyd for bringing this type of information to the public.
Of course. Ron, I saw an article you wrote on this topic recently in a publication, and a number of things really struck me. The first was your mentioning of risk not lying solely with the contractor. If an owner signs an agreement with a CM or GC, why wouldn't all the risk of escalation or material availability lie with the CM and GC and their subs? Why should an owner be concerned with what's going on in the market right now?
Yeah, great question, Jeff. I get that all the time. Why shouldn't we just push all the risk down? And I represent both general contractors, subcontractors, and owners, so I see it from all angles. And one of the things that we, have been explaining to owners, and owners get it across the country, we're watching this change. But one of the issues is that they have to realize that there's schedule unpredictability when we have a price volatility change, where I can give you examples where we've had subcontractors walk off jobs because they're not going to accept the extreme change in material prices. And as a result of that, what happens to your schedule? So it really comes down to how tight that schedule is, how much that owner wants to keep that project on schedule, because we're increasing the risk of that schedule being blown when you decide to just shift the risk down. You also do a couple of other things. Contractors are businessmen, and they're not going to take on all of that risk in today's volatile market. And so as a result of that, an owner is going to get more hyper-inflated bids than it might normally. So as an owner, if I'm an owner, I want to take on a bid that is realistic and know that, yes, if a increase happens in material price, we'll share that risk versus shifting the risk and taking on a higher price up front where the material price may never increase, and now you've just got a higher bid price that you've accepted and a loss on a project that could have been a much cheaper project for you. So again, that's the second thing. Really, the third thing is that we're seeing a lot of reputable contractors not bid projects where an owner is just looking to shift the risk of any type of material price escalation downstream. And in those cases, we've watched reputable contractors say, I'm not going to bid the project.
Yeah, so if they still have this risk of schedule unpredictability, inflated bid prices, or lack of reputable bidders, what are some of the things an owner might want to consider to help mitigate those risks?
Well, the first thing the owner should do is really first off communicate, and they want to communicate with all members of a project. Basically, you're talking about the design professionals, the contractors, even the subcontractors. And what I mean by that is they need to understand and communicate and collaborate relating to design aspects. Because first off, you want to take care of to see whether there are alternative materials. But the best way to do this is to share the risk. Anytime you're trying to shift the risk down, you're looking for all of the problems that we just talked about. If you're sharing the risk, and the easiest way to share the risk is through contract provisions. If you're sharing the risk, you're going to minimize your risk first off and you're going to get a better collaborative project. So that's the first thing that you need to look at, is that sharing of the risk between the parties through a contractual provision is always the best way to do that. But certainly you want to review those design standards with your design team. And a lot of times architects and engineers, nothing against them, but they don't have those boots on the ground to understand what materials are going to increase, what materials are going to have a more difficult time and availability relating to supply chain disruption, et cetera. So you need to really look to the contractors to help them determine if there are alternative materials. And again, one of the best ways to do this is an integrated design process, whether it be a design assist, where the contractors are assisting in that design early on, an IPD, an integrated project delivery method. There's lots of different ways you can do that, but it's that collaboration, that cooperation of both sharing the risk and getting early involvement from those who are going to know, the contractors who are going to know whether there's material price volatility within the selected materials for their project.
So you mentioned owners sharing the risk, and it almost sounds counterintuitive to what you would expect an owner to want to do. Are you really starting to see owners considering sharing the risk with contractors?
Yes, and I can tell you that with all confidence, it is very interesting that for a while we weren't saying that at all. Trust me, this was not something that was quickly adopted by owners. It was the standard in the industry for so long has been, once you give me a price, if it's a stipulated sum or a lump sum contract or a GMP, the risk gets shifted down to you, the contractor, and then down to the sub, et cetera, if there's going to be any type of material price increase. But the fact of the matter is, now the owners are beginning to understand that in these unprecedented volatile times, we've never seen swings like this. With everybody heard about wood going, soft woods going from tripling in price in a 1 year time period. They've heard about steel prices skyrocketing. They understand now that they have to get into this sharing mode. They have to change their mentality if they want their project to go smoothly. And I will tell you that I have now negotiated hundreds of contracts with owners sharing in that risk across the nation. I've also spoken with owners across the nation who I haven't negotiated contracts with, who have come up to me saying, no, we fully understand your points here. We are now sharing in the risk with every project we do.
It's really interesting. So everything we've talked about so far has been kind of before you put a shovel in the ground. What about after the design's complete, after the contracts are signed? Are there still things that an owner can do to help mitigate risk during construction?
Sure, there's still ways to do it. It's certainly not the recommended way. Hopefully, beforehand you're looking into discussing, cooperating with the owner and looking to alternative materials, and hopefully you have a contract provision in your contract that takes care of the risk sharing in a way that's fair to all parties. But if you haven't done that, then during the project, there are ways you can still be looking to, purchase material earlier than you might otherwise have in the process of the project. Again, that needs to be a discussion with the owner. You can look to your contract and different provisions within the contract relating to, some people continue to go back to force majeure. However, if the material price volatility is due to COVID, force majeure is no longer going to be a safe haven for you. And it only gets you, as you probably are aware at this point, normally it only gets you price changes. Time extensions, not price changes. So the fact of the matter, there is provisions in there relating to other areas, mistake, commercial impracticability. There are different contract provisions. You should look to your construction attorney to review your contract to see if there are ways to be able to go to the owner to see if there is a way you can share that risk. But the fact of the matter is, once you do that, you really need to look to all of the means of cooperation and collaboration, because it's communication. When I was doing this recent white paper for the AGC of Massachusetts, I can tell you that everybody around that table, and we had institutional owners, general contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, everyone around that table talked about communication was the key. Communication is the key. Nobody wants to be surprised. And if they're not surprised, if they have an understanding of what they're in for and why risk sharing versus shifting is so important, that communication really takes care of the problems that happen down the road.
Totally agree. Ron, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate the insight you've provided. Also, thanks to our viewers. For more great information on topics such as these, please like, share, and follow us on social media. Check out our website, www.cefloyd.com, or you can email me directly at jpalmer@cefloyd.com. And Ron has been nice enough to share his email as well. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to Ron as well. Thanks, Ron.
Jeff, thank you very much. Again, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to CE Floyd for continuing to inform the industry as needed.
Absolutely.